The deep space mining vessel Perseverance moved slowly through the empty darkness of space. Its metal hull was covered with scratches and dents. From many months of hard work collecting minerals from floating rocks called asteroids, the ship looked old and tired, but it was strong and reliable. Inside the ship, Communications Officer Park Hyun sat at his control station watching the glowing screens that showed signals from across space. The room was quiet except for the soft humming of machines and the occasional beep from the computers. Haeon had been doing this job for 3 years, and most days were boring with nothing but empty space to monitor. Suddenly something changed. A weak signal appeared on his screen, cutting through the usual background noise like a whisper in a crowded room. Hoyeon leaned forward, his heart beating faster as he tried to make the signal clearer. "Captain, I'm picking up something," Hyun called out, his voice echoing in the metal corridors of the ship. His fingers moved quickly over the controls, adjusting the frequency to hear the signal better. "It's an SOS." Captain Kim Tae was in the next room checking supply reports when he heard Hyun's call. He was a tall man with gray hair and deep lines around his eyes from years of staring into the brightness of stars. Kim had been commanding ships for 15 years, and he knew that an SOS signal meant someone was in terrible danger. Kim walked quickly to Hyun's station, his heavy boots making loud sounds on the metal floor. The signal was very weak, but he could hear it clearly now. It was definitely a distress call using the universal emergency frequency that all space-traveling species agreed to use when they needed help. "Where is it coming from?" Kim asked, his voice serious and worried. Engineer Lee So-min looked up from her computer station across the room. She was young, but very smart with machines, and had joined the crew only 6 months ago. Her screen showed a map of nearby space with blinking dots, showing the location of different signals. "It's coming from the outer rim, about 12 hours away." "If we travel at full speed," So-min said, pointing at her screen. She paused and looked more carefully at the data. "Captain, the transmission pattern, ... It's not human. This signal is coming from aliens." The words hung in the air like a heavy weight. Contact with alien species was still new and exciting for humans. Most aliens they had met were friendly, but some were dangerous. Pirates from different species often attacked ships carrying valuable cargo, far away in the darkness of space. The alien research vessel Luminous Path was dying slowly. The ship belonged to a peaceful species called the Valix, who spent their lives studying beautiful and strange things in space like exploding stars and cosmic storms. They were scientists, not fighters. The Valix looked different from humans. They were tall and thin, with silver skin that seemed to glow softly in the dark. Their eyes were large and dark blue, and they moved with careful, graceful motions. They had been studying a dying star when pirates attacked them without warning. The pirate ships had appeared suddenly, shooting powerful weapons that tore holes in the Luminous Path's hull. The Valix had no weapons to fight back with. The ship was built for research, not war. The pirates took everything valuable they could find and left the research vessel to die in space. Now, the Luminous Path was losing air through the holes in its hull. The life support systems that provided clean air and proper temperature were failing one by one. The Valix crew of 23 scientists knew they would die soon if no one came to help them. Senior researcher Vailtar was the leader of the scientific mission. He was old, even by Valix standards, with skin that had turned almost white with age. He had spent his whole life studying the mysteries of space, and now he was watching his crew die slowly in the cold darkness. The Valix had sent emergency signals to 17 different Galactic Council stations asking for help. Council was supposed to be like a government for many different alien species, helping to keep peace and protect those who needed it. They had also sent distress calls, too, for Council patrol ships that were traveling nearby. But every response was the same. Cold, automated computer messages came back saying things like, "Resource allocation protocols do not permit response," and "territorial jurisdiction limitations prevent assistance." The messages were polite but clear. No help was coming. The Galactic Council had rules about which species were important enough to save and which were not. The Valix were scientists, not traders or warriors. They had no valuable resources to offer, and no powerful military to threaten anyone with. In the cold, calculations of galactic politics, they were not worth the cost of a rescue mission. Veltar looked around at his dying crew. Some were already unconscious from lack of oxygen. Others sat quietly, using their remaining time to record final messages for their families back home. The ship's computers would hopefully survive long enough for someone to find these messages. Someday the galaxy has made its choice, Veltar whispered to himself, his voice barely audible in the failing ship. We are not worth saving. But somewhere in the darkness, a human mining ship had heard their call for help. Everything was about to change. Captain Kim Tae stood in front of the communication station, staring at the weak alien signal that flickered on the screen like a dying candle. His weathered hands gripped the edge of the control panel as he thought about what this meant. The mining ship Perseverance was not built for fighting. It was designed to break apart asteroids and collect valuable metals, not to battle dangerous space pirates. Kim knew the Outer Rim territories well. That area of space was like the Wild West of old Earth stories, lawless and dangerous. Pirates controlled most of the shipping lanes there, attacking any vessel that looked like easy prey, intelligence reports said, at least 6 heavily armed. Pirate ships operated in that sector, each one capable of destroying a mining vessel like his. The Perseverance carried only basic defensive systems. They had energy shields that could stop small meteors and laser cannons meant for cutting through rock, not fighting enemy ships. Kim's crew numbered 32 people, miners, engineers, and support staff. None of them were trained soldiers. Sir, Communications Officer Park Hyun said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper. He was monitoring multiple radio frequencies, listening to signals from across the galaxy. I'm picking up Galactic Council communications. They've received the same SOS signal we heard, but he paused, checking his instruments again. No response. Vessels have been dispatched to help. Kim felt his jaw muscles tighten with anger. The Galactic Council had dozens of powerful warships and thousands of trained peacekeepers. They had the resources to save the dying aliens easily, but they were choosing not to act. In their cold calculations, some lives were simply not worth the effort. Change course immediately, Kim ordered, his voice cutting through the quiet hum of the ship's engines. Set maximum burn to those coordinates. I want us there as fast as possible. Engineer Lee Soman looked up from her station with wide, worried eyes. She was young and had joined the crew hoping for a quiet job collecting space minerals, not dangerous rescue missions. Her computer screen showed tactical information about the Outer Rim sector, all of it bad news. Captain Soman said, her voice shaking slightly, we're completely outgunned. The pirates in that area have military-grade weapons and armor. Our mining ship doesn't stand a chance against them in a real fight. Kim turned to face her, and she saw something in his dark eyes that made her understand why men and women followed him into the dangerous emptiness of space. His voice was as hard as the metal hull of their ship when he replied. Don't care about the odds, Kim said simply. Someone is dying out there right now. We don't abandon people. Ever. The words seemed to echo through the bridge, and Salman felt a chill run down her spine. She had heard stories about human stubbornness, but this was the first time she had seen it firsthand. Kim was willing to risk his ship and crew for aliens he had never met. Within minutes, the Perseverance had changed direction completely. The ship's powerful engines, normally used for moving between asteroid fields, pushed them toward the Outer Rim at dangerous speeds. The hull creaked and groaned under the stress. But the ship held together. Kim walked to the main communication console and opened a channel to Earth Fleet Command. His message would travel faster than light through the quantum communication network that connected human colonies across the galaxy. This is Captain Kim Tae of the deep space mining vessel Perseverance, he said into the microphone, his voice steady and clear. We are responding to an alien distress call in Sector 7G. Request immediate backup from any available vessels. We're going in alone if necessary, but we could use help. The response came faster than Kim had expected. Within moments, his communication board lit up with replies from across human space. 3 patrol vessels immediately changed their courses to intercept the Defiant Horizon and Steadfast. These were real warships with trained crews and proper weapons. Behind them came the medical frigate Mercy, carrying two of the best doctors in the outer colonies, Choi Min and Yoon Hae. The Mercy was equipped with advanced medical facilities and could treat injuries from many different alien species. Admiral Park Chen's voice crackled over the communication system from Fleet Command Headquarters. The Admiral was an old friend of Kim's, and his voice carried both authority and concern. "Captain Kim, hold your position until backup arrives," the Admiral ordered. "Do not engage hostile forces alone." "That's a direct command." Kim looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. They were scared, but they were also determined. These people had chosen to follow him into the unknown dangers of space, and they trusted his decisions even when those decisions seemed crazy. Kim pressed the communication button and gave a reply that would later be recorded in Earth's naval archives as an example of human determination. "Negative, Admiral," Kim said calmly. "Every minute we wait here, people die out there. We're going." And now, the Perseverance continued racing toward the outer rim, its engines burning bright against the darkness of space. Behind them, human warships followed at maximum speed, but Kim knew they might arrive too late. The dying aliens had only him, and his mining crew standing between them and death, but that would have to be enough. The Perseverance suddenly appeared from hyperspace in a brilliant flash of blue light. Captain Kim Tae immediately saw what they were facing, and his heart sank. 6 large pirate ships moved in slow circles around a badly damaged alien vessel, like hungry wolves surrounding wounded prey. The alien ship was clearly dying. The Valix research vessel, Luminous Path, looked terrible. Its silver hull was torn open in several places, with bright gases and air streaming out into the cold vacuum of space. The ship's protective energy shields flickered weakly, like a candle in strong wind. Kim could see that the alien vessel would not survive much longer. "All hands, battle stations immediately," Kim announced over the ship's communication system. His voice echoed through every corridor and room of the mining vessel. 32 crew members rushed to their emergency positions. Even though most of them had never been in a real space battle before, Kim turned to engineer Lee Soman, who was already working frantically at her control station. Her young face was pale with fear, but her hands moved quickly over the computer controls. "Soman, can you modify our mining charges to work as weapons?" Kim asked urgently. Mining charges were powerful explosives normally used to break apart large asteroids, but they might work against enemy ships too.
"Already working on it, Captain,"
Soman replied, her fingers flying over her console like a pianist playing a difficult song. "I'm converting our industrial laser cutters to weapons configuration. It won't be much against military armor, but it's better than nothing." The pirate ships were large and dangerous looking, painted in dark colors, with sharp spikes and weapon ports covering their hulls. They had been taking their time destroying the alien research vessel, enjoying the slow kill. The pirates barely noticed the small human mining ship approaching until it was too late, so Dash Min launched the first mining charges and they streaked through space like bright meteors. Explosives hit 2 pirate ships and detonated against their hulls in brilliant flashes of orange fire. The pirates were shocked. They had expected no resistance at all, without hesitation. Kim ordered his ship to fly directly between the pirate formation and the dying alien vessel. The Perseverance was much smaller than the pirate ships, but it positioned itself like a shield protecting the wounded aliens. Immediately, devastating laser fire began hitting the mining ship from all directions. The Perseverance shook violently. As enemy weapons struck its hull, sparks flew from damaged control panels, and the lights flickered. Kim gripped his command chair tightly as his ship absorbed terrible punishment meant for the aliens behind them. Inside the crippled Luminous Path, senior researcher Veltar watched in complete amazement. His large, dark blue eyes were wide with disbelief as he saw the unknown vessel deliberately putting itself in harm's way to protect them. They single quotes, "are." "They're protecting us," Veltar whispered to his dying crew members. His voice was filled with wonder and confusion. In all his years of space travel, he had never seen one species risk everything to save complete strangers. Are these beings? The battle looked hopeless for the humans. The pirate ships had military weapons and armor, while the Perseverance was just a mining vessel with improvised defenses, laser beams, and missile. Explosions lit up the darkness of space as the pirates focused all their firepower on the stubborn, human ship. Just when it seemed the Perseverance would be destroyed, 3 new ships suddenly appeared from hyperspace. In flashes of brilliant light, the human patrol vessels Defiant, Horizon, and Steadfast emerged ready for battle, their weapons already charging. Behind them came the medical frigate Mercy, ready to help wounded survivors. The pirates had been expecting easy prey, a defenseless research vessel with no weapons. Instead, they found themselves facing coordinated human tactics and determination they had never encountered before.
Oh.
The human warships moved in perfect formation, surrounding the pirate fleet and cutting off their escape routes. "This is Captain Song Wu of the patrol vessel Defiant," came a clear transmission broadcast to all the pirate ships. Song's voice was calm, but carried the promise of violence. "Pirates withdraw immediately from this area or face complete destruction. You have 30 seconds to decide." The pirate leader, a scarred alien with yellow eyes and sharp teeth, stared at his tactical display in shock and growing fear. He had raided this sector for years without anyone challenging him. The idea that someone would mount such a large response to save worthless research scientists was completely beyond his understanding. What kind of species does this? The pirate leader snarled into his communication device as he ordered his fleet to retreat. "They're risking everything for aliens they don't even know." The pirate ships turned and fled into hyperspace, disappearing in flashes of red light. They left behind a battlefield littered with debris and the slowly dying alien research vessel. Kim immediately ordered his crew to begin rescue operations. Using their mining equipment, they carefully cut through the damaged hull of the Asterisk Luminous Path Asterisk to reach the trapped Valix crew inside. Dr. Choi Min from the medical frigate worked frantically to save the injured aliens, using portable life support equipment to keep them breathing. One by one, all 23 Valix researchers were evacuated to safety aboard the human vessels. Dr. Choi's skilled hands treated their injuries with medicines that worked on their alien biology. When the rescue was complete, Kim smiled with satisfaction. Not a single Valix life had been lost. The story of what happened in the Outer Rim spread across the galaxy faster than anyone could have imagined. Communication networks that connected thousands of worlds carried the news from planet to planet, station to station. Species that had never heard of humans before suddenly knew their names and what they had done. The news was simple but shocking. A small human mining ship had risked everything to save complete strangers. They had fought 6 pirate vessels to protect aliens they had never met before. Most importantly, they had succeeded when the mighty Galactic Council had refused to even try. On worlds throughout the galaxy, species that had been ignored, dismissed, or forgotten by the Galactic Council began talking about these strange newcomers called humans. In markets, spaceports, and government buildings, the same questions were asked over and over. Who are these humans? Why did they help the Valix? What do they want in return? Senior researcher Veltar of the Valix was invited to speak before the Galactic Assembly, a massive meeting place where representatives from hundreds of species gathered to discuss important matters. The assembly building was enormous, with seats arranged in circles that rose high toward the ceiling like a giant amphitheater. Veltar stood at the center podium, his silver skin glowing softly under the bright lights. His voice was clear and strong as he addressed the thousands of delegates who had come to hear his story. "The humans asked for nothing from us," Veltar said, his words echoing through the great hall. "They knew nothing about our species, our culture, or our value to the galaxy. They had just learned that we existed. Yet they risked their lives, their ship, and their crew to save us from certain death." He paused, looking around at the sea of alien faces watching him. This is what true honor looks like. Many delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The Galactic Council prided itself on making logical, practical decisions based on resources and political importance. The idea of risking valuable assets to save unknown aliens seemed foolish and wasteful to them. But Veltar's words had power because they were true. And truth has a way of spreading even when people don't want to hear it. The Valaks quickly became humanity's first real allies in galactic politics. As a gesture of gratitude and friendship, they shared their most advanced technology with human colonies. The Valaks had spent centuries developing incredible sensor systems that could detect signals and ships across vast distances of space. They also gave humans detailed star maps, showing safe travel routes through dangerous areas of the galaxy. This gift was more valuable than anyone realized at first. The advanced Valak sensors allowed human ships to detect distress calls from much farther away than before. Ships that might have died alone in the darkness could now be found and rescued by human vessels. Captain Kim Tae was still aboard the Perseverance when the first request for help arrived. Communications Officer Park Hyun looked up from his station with surprise written across his face. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the Kalani species," Hyun reported. "They're asking for our protection." Kalani were a species of peaceful traders who traveled between star systems, buying and selling goods. They were skilled merchants but had no military ships to protect themselves. Pirates had been attacking their trade convoys for years, stealing valuable cargo, and sometimes taking prisoners. The message was formal, but desperate. Human vessels. "We request your protection from pirate attacks. The Galactic Council has refused our petitions for aid, claiming we do not meet the criteria for military assistance. We have heard of your actions to save the Valaks researchers. Will you help us?" Before Kim could respond to the Kalani request, Lieutenant Cha Ben looked up from another communication station. His young face showed amazement and worry. "Sir," Chapin said quietly, "we're receiving 17 similar requests from different species across the galaxy. They're all asking for human protection because the Galactic Council won't help them." Kim stared at the flood of messages appearing on his screens. Species he had never heard of were begging for help against pirates, slavers, and other dangers. Each message told the same story. They'd asked the Galactic Council for help and been refused. Kim rubbed his tired eyes and nodded grimly. "Looks like we're in the protection business now," he said to his crew. Word of human willingness to help spread through the galaxy's criminal networks as well. Pirates and slavers who had operated freely in forgotten sectors of space began to hear disturbing reports. Human ships were appearing in areas where no one had ever bothered to patrol before. More importantly, the humans fought back hard when they found criminal activity. Pirate captains throughout the Outer Rim territories began avoiding any area where human ships might be present. They passed warnings to each other: attack anyone in human-protected space, and they will come for you. They always come, and they don't give up. Within just a few months, something unprecedented began happening across the galaxy. Dozens of species that had been ignored or dismissed by the Galactic Council started forming informal alliances with human colonies. They offered trade agreements, shared technology, and mutual defense pacts. The Galactic Council watched this growing network of cooperation with increasing concern and anger. Their carefully maintained order was being challenged by newcomers who didn't understand the rules of galactic politics, but the humans didn't care about the rules. They cared about people who needed help. 6 months had passed since the rescue of the Valaks research ship. The galaxy was a very different place. Captain Kim Tae stood on the bridge of the Perseverance, but his mining vessel was no longer just a simple asteroid harvester. It had become the flagship of something much larger and more important: the Outer Rim Protection Alliance. The bridge looked different now, too. New communication equipment had been installed by Valaks engineers, allowing the ship to receive signals from across the galaxy. Additional crew members from different alien species worked alongside the original human miners, creating a truly diverse team united by a common purpose. Kim looked out through the main viewing window at an incredible sight. Dozens of ships from 47 different species moved through space in coordinated patrols. There were sleek Valaks research vessels with their silver hulls gleaming in starlight. Sturdy Kalani trading ships converted to carry medical supplies. An elegant craft from species whose names Kim was still learning to pronounce. All of these ships flew together under a simple banner that had become famous across the galaxy. No one fights alone. It was not a fancy motto created by politicians or military leaders. It was just a basic promise that had grown from one human captain's decision to help strangers in need. Lieutenant Commander Park Yoon, who had been promoted after months of excellent service coordinating Alliance communications, looked up from his expanded console. His station now monitored distress calls from thousands of star systems. Using the advanced Valix sensor technology that could detect emergency signals across vast distances, Captain Hean said, his voice carrying a note of concern, "Incoming. Transmission from the Galactic Council," marking it as highest priority. Kim nodded and straightened his shoulders. He had been expecting this call for weeks. The Galactic Council had watched the growth of the Outer Rim Protection Alliance. With increasing anger and worry, their carefully controlled system of galactic politics was being challenged by newcomers who refused to follow the established rules. The main viewing screen flickered, and a three-dimensional holographic image appeared in the center of the bridge. Council Speaker Mordox materialized before them, his tall, alien form imposing and stern. Mordox belonged to a species called the Hegemony, who had controlled galactic politics for over 1,000 years. His face was hard as stone, and his forearms were crossed in a gesture that clearly showed his displeasure. "Captain Kimte of the human vessel Perseverance," Mordox began, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. "Without question, you will provide an immediate explanation for your species' unauthorized interference in galactic affairs. Your actions have disrupted the established order that has maintained peace for centuries." Kim stood calmly in front of the holographic projection, his weathered face showing no fear or intimidation. Behind him, his diverse crew continued their work, but he could feel their attention focused on this crucial conversation. "With respect, Speaker Mordox," Kim replied, his voice steady and clear. "We have only answered distress calls that your council chose to ignore. We have protected innocent beings that your government deemed unworthy of protection." Mordox's expression grew even more stern, and his forearms gestured impatiently. "The Galactic Council maintains order and stability. Through careful resource allocation and strategic planning, we cannot waste valuable military assets on every minor species that encounters difficulties." Kim felt anger rising in his chest, but he kept his voice controlled and professional. "The Council maintains order by letting people die," he said, his words carrying the weight of absolute conviction. "You had your chance to answer their calls for help. You chose not to act." The holographic image of Mordox seemed to grow larger and more threatening, but Kim did not step back or look away. "Shh. Don't leave our own behind," Kim continued, his voice growing stronger with each word. "And now, anyone who calls for help becomes our own. It's the promise we've made, and that's the promise we'll keep." Mordox opened his mouth to respond angrily, but Kim had said everything he needed to say. The transmission ended abruptly, as the council speaker cut the communication link, leaving the bridge of the Perseverance in sudden silence, unknown to Kim. His words had been broadcast across the galaxy through the Alliance's communication network. Millions of beings on thousands of worlds had heard a human captain tell the mighty Galactic Council that some things were more important than politics and resource allocation. By the next day, 18 more species had sent formal requests to join the Outer Rim Protection Alliance. Each message was similar. They had heard Kim's words and wanted to be part of an organization that actually cared about protecting innocent lives. Dr. Yoonhae, who had been promoted to Chief Medical Officer of the entire Alliance fleet, entered, the bridge carrying a datapad filled with reports. She was a small woman with kind eyes who had saved hundreds of lives in the past 6 months, treating injuries and illnesses from dozens of different alien species. "Captain," she said with a smile of satisfaction, "I have good news to report. We've successfully established fully equipped medical stations in 47 star systems. Our response time to medical emergencies has improved dramatically, and, most importantly, no distress call has gone unanswered in Alliance-protected space." Kim looked out at the stars, where human ships patrolled alongside vessels from species across the galaxy. The view filled him with pride and determination. "That's the standard we set, Doctor," Kim said quietly. "That's the standard we keep." the depths of space, the Perseverance continued its eternal patrol, carrying a simple but powerful message to every corner of the galaxy. In the vast, cold universe, humanity had decided that no one dies alone.